Morning, folks. Got a little bit of moisture in the ground. Not much. So today we're going to finish topping these grain bins off, and eventually I think we're going to do a little bit of work to the honeybee to make sure it's in tip-top shape. But today's video is sponsored by GSI, so we're going to talk a little bit about some of our grain handling stuff we've got going on here. And I figured what better day to do that than while we're topping bins off.
What?
You still ain't seen me yet?
No, I have no freaking clue where you are. I can hear you.
What if you look up?
Where? Oh, that's creepy.
Can you start that red semi?
What do I do? Just hit the buttons and turn it on?
You just turn the key like you would a car.
Okay.
Up.
Fine.
So this bin's not quite as full as, or empty as I thought. We transferred some grain and apparently we didn't transfer as much as I thought. So I'm gonna sit up here. BJ's gonna start dumping this truck. And hopefully we can cram a whole bin or truck in there, but I don't think we will. I think we're gonna get half a truck in there. It is slightly coned down. So when you fill a grain bin, they fill in a peak. It's like the shape of that roof. So when you start pulling out of the center, it makes a cone, like it starts coning down. So we might be able to get more than I think we can, but I thought we'd be quite a bit further down than this. But oh well, it's a good problem to have, having full bins.
Couldn't train cattle how to do
Nope.
that?
Hey, she started the semi. So BJ's down there dumping. I'll sit here and watch this. And once she's full, we'll shut her down. That one's full. So this fan is running, so let's see how much air is coming up through here. See the air coming out? So we should be able to hold at least one, probably hold a whole truck in there actually. One thing I would advise, if you get a new bin, get one of these walks up here. It's a heck of a lot more convenient than that over there. Able to work on stuff a lot more safely. Now they are a little wobbly, but they hold me. Full. You can feel the heat coming out of these bins where we're cooling this grain. Pretty interesting. It's substantially warmer right here where that corn is still warm, but it's 50 degrees today, so we're cooling her down now. I gotta climb another bin. Will you get me a refill? I dropped it. It landed like this. Well, it took 3 grain bins, so we got that truck empty. Unfortunately, we did not get the other one empty. Look at somebody earning their lunch. And there's Kayla. So one of the other jobs we got to do today is fix this tarp. Last day of corn harvest, the control panel went out of it, so we've acquired a new one. Hopefully this will fix our problems.
If it don't, it won't.
If it don't, that ain't the problem. If it don't, we just need a new EB trailer.
It don't matter to me one way or another.
You ready?
Yeah, I need them.
Where's your hand? Yeah. Now we gotta back the truck up, hook it up, and see if that was our issue. Hopefully that's all it was. Because we are gonna need this truck. Like I said, we are done with corn. Corn's canned and in the bin. But we still have double crop beans. And honestly, they're gonna be pretty terrible. Our 3 semis in the grain cart might hold the whole crop, to be honest. There's 400 acres. That's how bad they've been. I heard a lot of neighbors talking about 9 to 10 bushel double crops. So not a good year for them. So if you're unfamiliar with double crops, it is a bean crop that we plant usually late June, early July, right after our wheat crop comes off. This year we got them in super early. We did get a little bit of rain. I had high hopes, but then it just never rained again. So they've been bad, real bad. So usually we can get 30 to 40 bushel double crops. Not going to be the case this year. Very rain dependent, which is kind of why we've never really banked on double crops. We've always looked at those as a bonus.
Take apart wiring in here.
Ah. Show you guys where BJ's been hiding, just hanging out. Got it. Uh-oh. Whoever needs programmed or something.
That's kind of what I was wondering.
You have that guy's phone number? So, now that we've got all the corn stored, because I really wanted to talk a little bit about grain dryers. So we did not get to use our grain dryer much, which for us from a cost standpoint is a good thing. But I did want to show you how valuable a grain dryer is to an operation. We did have some wet corn. For example, I've got a load ticket in front of me from way back in September. This was a small load. I think it was when we first started right here by the shop, or the day after that, somewhere in there is one of the early tickets. The moisture was 18.4%. Let's see here. We had 350 bushels on this truckload, and the elevator took from us 17.15 bushels. That is just the shrinkage. So when you're drying grain, it does shrink. When you have a wet, think of it like let me see here. Let's think. Think of it like an Orby. If your kids have Orbeez, if you throw one of those in water, what's it do? It swells up. Well, corn is somewhat similar, not quite near as extreme, but as it dries down, it does shrink a little bit. So there is some shrink in corn as you dry it, but the elevator probably charges more than they should, at least most elevators. So here we have a grain loss. Here we have a grain loss calculator. Here we have a grain wet to dry bushel calculator. Let's see what the actual shrink is. We're gonna put in our wet bushels of 350 on this small load. Our starting moisture was 18.4. Final moisture, we're going for 15.5. We're gonna calculate. So, total shrink percentage 3.14. Should have ended up with 338. So, boom, 332. So in that 350 bushels, they basically pocketed 6 bushel. Like I said, this is standard practice. I'm not trying to belittle Cargill or any other elevator. This is how they do it. They probably have profit margins, but just on that 350 bushel, they took 6 bushels. So let's say it was 1,000 bushel load. It's roughly, that's a little over a third of a truckload. So 18 bushel on a standard truckload. 18 bushel times on this ticket was $4.20. So that comes out to $75.60. And that's just shrink on one truckload. So just doing some quick numbers here. Like I said, this is one of our load tickets from earlier in the year. So this actually did happen cost-wise. So doing some quick math here, let's take a look at what we got here on what it costs to take a load to Cargill at 18.4% moisture. So this is what the drying cost was. We have a drying cost of $160. That's right off the top. This is on a 1,000 bushel load. Then we have a shrink cost of $216.09. That's them taking 50 bushels, and we were selling that corn at $4.20, I believe. It was a little over 50. It was like 51 point something or other. But that comes out to, that's the wrong number. Let's do some math here and figure out what that comes out to per truckload. It comes out to 376.09. That's $376 per truckload. And that's on corn that's only 3% wet. So what do you think that looks like when you start getting to 20, 22, 23% corn? Starts getting substantially higher very quickly. Let's figure what the actual cost, what it really costs us to do that same load. At 18.4% if we took it here. All right, here's what it costs us to do that. We have a drying cost of 6 cents per bushel. So that puts us at $60 to dry that load of corn. We have a shrinkage of basically $144 worth of corn. That's it shrinking 34 bushel using the same price in that equation for $204. That's what it cost compared to the $376 for a savings of $172.03. Now, $172 doesn't sound like much, but how many loads of corn do we harvest in a year? In a good year, the last few years, we've been running roughly 300,000 bushels of corn that we've been storing. 300 truckloads times $172. So we have 172.03 times 300 for a savings of 51,600. Now, is this a perfect equation? No. There's other costs in there, like there's electric that's being used to dump those trucks here, but then we are also keeping that grain. There's cost there. So there is some other costs, but the benefits far outweigh those. The dryer that we have, which is a couple years old now, I believe was in the neighborhood of $75,000 to $85,000. I can't remember right offhand. So as you can see, and that's at 18% moisture. It does not take long to pay for itself. And most years, 18% is probably a fairly average moisture. But to be honest, 18% corn, we're not drying it much at all. Our cost is probably much cheaper than that. This makes having a dryer and grain bins very, very profitable. So that's a little bit of value on what a grain dryer can bring to the operation. We've had great luck with GSI. This is our second GSI dryer. Our one we had before us was a 1996 model. It's basically the same dryer, just a little bit shorter. This one has the updated control panel. And I'm able to control it from my cell phone, which is a huge convenience. Although we didn't get to use it this year very much, I know we will be using it in the future. But for now, we've got some double crops to run so we can put a bow on this harvest season. So we are going to put a cutter bar, new cutter bar in this honeybee here. Double crops are usually kind of tough just because you're cutting all the straw from the wheat crops still, and you've got the beans to cut, so a sharp knife really speeds that process up. We've got a spare sickle in the shop, so we're going to throw that in there, and then we will be just ready to fly through the crop. Looks like we're ready for action. So it is time to go now. Dad's putting a little bit of fuel out of the Thunder Creek in that combine, and then we'll be ready to make some dust fly. So over here we have some better double crops. We knew they were going to be better over here. I think he just came on the radio and said they're running 24. Unfortunately, that's going to be some of our best double crops this year, but it is what it is. So the Thunder wagon is just about empty. I'm going to fill it up because Dad will need fuel in the combine tomorrow. I don't think he got enough to run 2 days out of it. So probably won't fill it up, but I am going to put some fuel in it. Put a few 100 gallons in it. So this Thunder Creek, it's kind of one of them things that before we had it, I thought it was a complete waste of money. And once we got it, I was like, how did we ever get along without it? Like most farms, we always carried around a couple tanks in the bed of our trucks, and I mean, they worked, but being able to pull in, have 900 gallons of fuel, fill everything up, have an air compressor, a def tote, very handy. One other thing we did was put a little bit of corn in one of these bins. We had one bin that still had some corn from last year, a few thousand bushels, so this truck only had about 500-600 bushel. Went ahead and dumped it here. And BJ's gonna take this truck over to where the combine is. So he is sawing through those pretty quick. Not really having to go slow. New sickle in there. Lower bushel double crops. He did say they're making 25, which is about 20 more than we were expecting, but we kind of knew this side of the operation had some better double crops. I guess we did think these would be a lot better than 5 to 10 bushel, but I think 25 was a pleasant surprise though. Hey everybody, if you enjoyed the video, do me a favor, give the video a thumbs up, drop us a comment, subscribe to the channel if you haven't and you're enjoying it, and we'll see you in the next video.